Don't give Monica a mic. Oh, who thought that one? Linda. Thank you. Welcome everybody to the All Candidates Forum for Mayor, Council Representative, sorry, not Council Representative, Regional District Representative and School District Representative for McBride. If you haven't already received one, there is a copy of the itinerary for the forum tonight. Linda Fry has some and Lynn Smith has some at the back. It goes through how we are going to manage this event this evening a little bit. Some of you may not be aware, but I think it's important that I mention this in the beginning. Our councillors for the Village of McBride have already been elected by acclamation. So they are Alan Frederick, Lucille Green, Rosemary Ruby, and Diane Smith. So our councillors are not on the stage tonight answering questions, they are in by acclamation. So we have, for representative for School District of the Robson Valley is Mr. Harold Edwards and Mr. Bob Thompson. We've separated them for a good reason. For the Village of McBride Mayor, we have Loran Martin, our incumbent mayor, Jean Runts, and Rick Thompson. And for our Regional District Area H representative, Danielle Hunter and Ben Hunter. Oh, Danielle Allen. Since when did you guys get hooked up? Danielle Allen and Ben Hunter. It's my progressives, they're getting regressive. I apologize. Sorry, Danielle. Sorry, Dan. I don't know which to apologize more to them. So. What we will be doing, we only have 2 hours, a little less than 2 hours by the time I quit speaking. So our planned itinerary is for each candidate at the beginning of this evening to have 3 minutes for opening statements. We drew cards as to who's going to speak. It's not going to be in any particular order, but I will give you that order. Loran Martin will speak first, Harold Edwards will speak second, Rick Thompson, Jean Runts, Danielle Allen, Ben Hunter, and Bob Thompson will end with their 3 minutes. For those of you who are, I know you were at Belmont last night, but the man with the power is the man in the corner with the Christmas lights. Although I was born under the sign of Aquarius, which has a little bit of a flake factor, I'm all about rules of order. I love rules of order. And so, when the yellow light comes on, I am not going to announce 30 seconds. You got it, 30 seconds. The red light comes on, you can be darn sure I'll interrupt you. Because we need to stick to our time. So initially we'll have the 3 minutes for opening statements, then we will address questions from the community and the audience. These will be in written format only. Some have already been pre-submitted to those that were gathering them. They will be compiled and handed to me, and I will be reading the questions. So if anybody in the audience has a question, there are people who will have pieces of paper and pens. Please write them down, give them to those who are collecting them. They will compile, and we will take the questions in order to the candidates so that they can answer them. It does eliminate any back and forth between people that have whatever agenda they may or may not have. So we will take them as written questions. And then at the end, we will have 3 minutes of closing remarks from each of the candidates. Haven't figured out that order yet, but you can be sure I'll figure it out by then. So, does anybody in the audience have any questions for me before we start? Vincent, show me your Christmas lights, would you? Okay, excellent. So green is go, yellow is keep watching that, red, I'll be on you like a fly. Okay, if we could start then, I would like to call upon Ms. Loran Martin for her opening statement. Would you like a mic?
Probably would be better, yeah. Okay. Hi everyone, and thanks very much for coming out to see us. I actually didn't really prepare an opening speech because, no offense, I'm really tired of doing elections. But I wanted to take some time to reflect on what it's been like and how hard council and myself have worked to set the community on a different path. And I'm very proud of some of our accomplishments. The one thing that I said I wanted to do in the last election was to put the library and museum in the hands of the people and have you guys tell us what you wanted. If you didn't want the service, then we wouldn't proceed with it, and if you did, we would. And the referendum came out. I can tell you I presented at UBCM. I had 10 different communities come up and say, we're going through the exact same thing. How did you guys handle it? And the accolades that we got for our museum were, you can't even believe it. People were saying that, I think I'm just going to go to McBride and see what it's like, and then that way we can see what we want. It was well received. I'm also proud with the strides we've made in tourism. Tourism is one of BC's largest sectors when it comes to money. And we have the ability here to make that go in spades. I mean, you just have to look outside to see what we can do. And the groups that have come forward, the bike trails, the Connector Trail, which was my idea, Roy Howard's group with their trails, the equine trails are coming up. We've worked with the province on a destination strategy. We are trying to get our own regional strategy going and start marketing our area, and in the hopes that we can accommodate more people and have more visitation. This will increase businesses and opportunities for business. So that's been a really good one. I'm also very proud of getting the community forest on the right track. As everyone knows, I inherited a community forest that was grossly overcut. Our forest stewardship plan had expired. We had never done waste assessments, and we were hit with over 30,000 cubic meters in waste assessments. And there was constant complaints about the quorum of council being the same quorum on the community forest board. And those were difficult issues to address because it was a very controversial subject matter, as was the library and museum. And the way that I facilitated that was I actually put council on the board. Council decided one by one, and it was actually Councillor Bazanzin and Councillor Reichart that said it best when they resigned from the board, is that the board didn't need to be council members. The board needed to be people who had the experience and the knowledge and knew how to run a company. Also, especially local knowledge, that's important in our industry. So,
Lorraine, I'm sorry I have to cut you off.
oh, I'm
sorry.
off?
Yeah, we just need to keep an eye on that back corner if you could when you're speaking. Thank you. Could you pass it to Harold?
Harold? Do I need the mic? Can anyone hear me? My name is Harold Edwards. I think most of you know me. I was a logger for 18 years. I was a high school teacher for 18 years. I was part of a company that developed a Run River Hydro project, a 6 megawatt unit up in Castle Creek, and I have a small farm west of town. All these activities have been part of what have shaped me and made me a candidate for the school district. And it's a new position this year. Before all the trustees were were elected at large, and now for the first time they're going to be, there's two positions, one for Robson Valley, McBride and Belmont essentially, and Dome Creek, and then another one for Mackenzie. And so our job is to reflect the local ideas and the needs of the local schools. As I'm sure most of you know here, we've had enrollment problems in both the elementary and the high school here, and Vailmont has had similar issues. And so what we're trying to do is figure out what's the best way to attack that. My approach is, and I've been on council for the last 2 years, and when we meet with the Minister of Education, we've been saying that we need a new funding formula, and the funding formula has to be based on providing money for the facility, and then you look at what money can be allocated for on a per student basis for education, because it's inherently unfair for bigger municipalities or cities like Prince George to have their building costs spread over a larger number of people. So that's going to be my, if you honor me with your votes, I will, and that's my intention, is to develop that side of the funding formula so that we can get better funding in here. The other part of what I'm trying to promote is the process of learning how education is going to happen. I don't like to use the word deliver because it's not, you don't want the students to can pour education in. And so we need to find ways to enable students to develop their potential in our high school. I see that my red light's going to come on, so I'll stop.
Thank you. We'll pass it to Rick Thompson, please.
Good evening. I'd like to recognize and thank the McBride Chamber of Commerce for hosting this election forum tonight. I've participated in many of these, having been on council for the past 5 terms. I'd also like to congratulate those candidates that put their names forward for seats on council and who are acclaimed to council for the next term. I look forward to working with them as we move McBride forward with infrastructure improvements, housing investments, tourism and recreation growth, and working with the community on those things that make McBride a great place to live. Thank you to the other candidates that have put their names forward to represent our community in important discussions on the regional district and school board. My name is Rick Thompson, and you may recognize me. I have a few posters up around McBride. I have lived, worked, and played in McBride and the Robson Valley since 1998. As the former principal of McBride Secondary School, I have demonstrated effective leadership for our community. As I mentioned previously, I have been honored to serve as a village councillor since 2002, where I developed effective skills and meaningful connections for our community. Over the years, I've been active in community organizations, such as the Roundhouse Theatre Society, Snowfest, Summer Street Festival, and the Healthy Communities Committee. I have started and continue to operate several local and innovative businesses. I am optimistic and excited to help lead McBride in growth, improvement, and community involvement. We're making progress on our infrastructure improvements, and we are, with the help of great community partners, making progress on recreation and trail development. These are good investments as they improve the quality of life for those of us that live here, and they attract new residents. We have some work to do on supportive and affordable housing to ensure that our residents can enjoy life here longer. Attracting small business to our community is a key to employment and economic diversification. McBride is a strong community. We have residents that step up when they are passionate about something. I will work with all the residents to channel our passion for McBride toward a single goal of a thriving community where everyone wants to live. As your next mayor, I'll ensure a smooth transition so that your elected officials and staff can hit the ground running, and I will ensure that you get 4 years of good government in McBride. I look forward to answering your questions through the evening. Thank you.
Thanks, Rick. I'll pass the mic to Jean Runs, please.
If you don't mind, I'm going to stand up.
You can just slide the thing up. Yep.
Can you hear me? Okay, I'm just going to give you some general information about myself to start with. My family and myself, we moved here in, I think it was 1985, where I was hired as woodlands manager for Zeidler's. 4 years later, I left Zeidler's, and basically since then I've been working as a contractor in the forestry field. I have a Bachelor of Science degree in Forest Engineering from Oregon State University. And with that, the engineering part of it at Oregon State, that's the industrial area where you learned a lot about economics, valuation of timber, logging systems, general forestry information, but a real concentration on industry. And that's where I basically worked my entire career. I'm also the Exalted Ruler with the Elks here in town, and I've been in the Elks for, I don't know, close to 30 years. I've been Exalted Ruler much of the last 20 years. And I just want to point out that if you look at the way the Elks and Royal Purple have continued to prosper here, that has everything to do with the teamwork that takes place with the Elks and Royal Purple. So now what I'm going to do is I'm currently the general manager of the McBride Community Forest. I tried to figure out what I can say in just a few minutes. So what I'm going to do is I've got 12 slogans that were put together. I've got them grouped here, and then I'm going to say a little bit about them, and I'll probably run out of time. So the first one is, together we can build a brighter future. The second one is, economic growth takes real leadership. And with the leadership, real change starts with new leadership. And then a bunch of these have together in them. And I just made up one of these, and I got the others handed to me. And it's kind of interesting because a lot of them had the same thing, you know. Building a brighter future together. McBride, growing our community together. Yes, we can change our future together. And that's a key thing. You work together as a team, you can accomplish just about anything you want to. If you're separated, good luck, you're not going to get anywhere. That's a really key item for McBride. The next thing is, the future is now. Economic growth takes real, already got that one. McBride, open for business.
Regina, I'm going to have to stop you.
Okay.
Thanks.
Thank you.
You pass the mic to Danielle Allen.
Hi, and thank you again to the Chamber for organizing this. This is fantastic. So, I'm Danielle. I manage the McBride Visitor Center in the Whistle Stop. I have 2 grown children and a small hobby farm between McBride and Vailna. And emphasis on the hobby farm. It doesn't make any money. But I have nothing but respect for the hard work that our farmers and ranchers do, day in and day out. Over the last 4 years now, we've gotten a lot done. We've brought local representation to the School District 57 board, and I'm really proud of that. We've advocated for local decision-making around backcountry access and development, and have gotten the rest of the municipalities in the province to push with us. We've worked to support clean energy, affordable housing, children, and seniors. There's a new grant program that will be available next year, an Area H Community Foundations grant. Through sound policy around land use and an open for business attitude, we are attracting new people with new ideas into our communities. Now I keep saying we, because I've not done any of this by myself. We've worked well with other elected officials. The administration and staff at the regional district are smart and professional, and they've worked hard to implement the policies that I and the rest of my board has advocated for. The community groups that I've worked with are full of passion and enthusiasm and knowledge, and it has been a privilege to work with them. Local government does not build community. People do. We still have a lot of work to do. We need to make sure that we have input into decisions that affect us. We need to get the ministers and the deputy ministers and other decision makers here, get them out from behind their desks in Victoria and Ottawa, and bring them to come meet the people who are paying for the decisions that they make. Together we can work to find solutions. We need to make sure that we're at the table. We need to continue to attract valley-friendly industry and investment into our area, growing our employment diversity and building on the strengths of each community and each area in our shared region. We have to attract the people to work here, live here, and raise their families here. We need to be able to give our children the tools and the education to leave, learn new things, and then the economic opportunities to come back with new skills and new ideas. We need to support our seniors so that they can be active participants and stay in our communities. And in order to do this, we need to have the kind of communities that people want to live in. Vibrant, diverse, offering a healthy lifestyle, and varied recreational opportunities. Now, we have the tools and the resources to make that happen. We have them right here within us. From our community forests to our ranchers, our CM workers, our forestry workers. We've got tools. Now, when I was first elected, I was told that this job could be as small or as big as I wanted it to be. Apparently I took that as a challenge, and I'm still up for the challenge. Thank you.
Neil, welcome home. How's your boy? That's good news, man. Good to see you again. I'm Ben Hunter. Most of you have known me for quite a while. Some of you since I was a kid. My family moved here about 37 years ago. And we called it home. I went away, looked for work, go to school, came back. Couldn't resist it. This is home. I've done a lot of things while I was away. Here I'm working as a self-employed carpenter, renovator. I do some heavy cargo recovery. I've been a volunteer manager, been a fundraiser, trained in both. Stage manager, musician, trained in both. I've gained a pretty decent wallet of skills over the last 25 years or so. And the ability to listen, to hear what's going on. When people talk, not only hear what they're saying, hear what they don't say. The undercurrents. And the undercurrent I'm getting from our area, right from Dome Creek down to Alberta, is that we're losing people at an astonishing rate. We've seen our schools drop, 10 students per, basically, this year. Same last year, almost. We've got a solution for that. We'll put more people to work here in full-time jobs so that the families don't have to be split while one of the parents goes away for 2 weeks out of 3, just to work, just to pay a mortgage. We stop shooting ourselves in the foot when opportunities come up for business and industry to provide those jobs. That way, when our kids get older, maybe they can stay here and work at something that pays a little better than $15 an hour. I want to work with everybody, the residents here, the business owners, the investors, and with the regional board as finding what is going to work here, what will make this place a little bit more friendly to business. And with any luck, you'll be helping me out doing it. Thank you.
Thank you. Bob Thompson.
So, I've lived in the Robson Valley for about 30 years now. I met my wife and married her and moved here to be with her, and happy anniversary, dear. Today's our anniversary. Yeah, it was my birthday yesterday. It all happens. So ever since when I first came to visit Glenda here, I met sort of some of the Dunster community, and it really appealed to me, this sense of community, this kind of something that they don't have in Los Angeles. You know, they have lots of money and big cars, but yeah, there's no community. And as I lived here and worked mostly in McBride, I have been treated so well. Everyone has been so kind to me. So now that I'm retired, I saw this coming up, and it's something I've hoped for a long time, to have local representation for the school board. And I thought, you know, it's time to give something back. And so that was my motivation to do that, to run. I have to say I have no experience on the school board. I'm a total newbie. But I have integrity, I am honest, I really believe in service. And I understand the job is that I need to represent every student, every parent, every administrator, every staff member, all community members who are concerned about what happens in our schools. My feeling is that because we're small rural communities, we're kind of looked at as not that important, and if cuts need to be made, they can happen over there because, there's not that many votes. So, but I want to stop that. And Harold, who I think would be a fine choice for a school board trustee as well. So you're going to get somebody good either way. But he mentioned he mentioned that the funding formula needs to change, and this is a conclusion that I've come to as well. And these are the kinds of things that I want to work on. I want to make sure that we have a voice so far away in Prince George where the world is completely different than it is out here. So thank you very much for listening to me, and I'll hand the mic back to Mike.
Okay, we have our opening statements done. I love math, but what Linda just handed me was like, whoa. We right now have approximately 17 questions proposed in writing. The vast majority are for the mayoral candidates, which is not unexpected at all. We will allow 2 minutes for each candidate to answer the questions when they are called upon. Some questions are for an individual candidate, some are for each candidate in that category. So I will let everybody know who this is being asked of. Sorry, this one's a little hot. And what I will do is, so that our regional district and school trustee candidates don't fall asleep, I'm going to bounce it back and forth between mayor and the other candidate categories. But we will start with mayoral candidates for the first question. You will have 2 minutes to answer. It will be the same light system as we have in the back. The first question is for Jean Runts. I apologize in advance, I haven't read through all of them, so I'm going to be reading these for the first time off the cuff. Jean, your first question is, if you were elected as mayor, would it potentially be a conflict of interest with your community forestry job? You have 2 minutes.
To answer that one, it could definitely be a potential, but everybody that's on the board has a potential conflict of interest. I would have to do, as mayor, I would have to not be involved with some things that come through council, if not all of them, with the community forest. That's true, because I'm also, I'm not officially on the board in my position as general manager, but I attend all the board meetings where I, give information to the board itself. And in terms of that, I actually checked with, it would have been, I checked with the government concerning that and called up municipal affairs. And what they told me on the whole thing is that I had complete rights to be running. If I was a direct employee, I could not run. But in my job, I answer to the board of directors of McBride Community Forest, and I'm also a contractor. I'm not even a direct employee of the community forest. But the biggest thing is the integrity and to keep things separated. And everybody on the board, we have several of the board members that are loggers that work for us. There's actually nobody on the board, with the exception of Harold, I think, Harold Edwards, that was on there, where there wasn't the real potential for conflict of interest. So that's my opinion on that one. Thank you.
Thank you. Can you pass the mic to Loran, please? Loran, bear with me. There's 2 parts to this question. I think you've started to answer it in your introductory comments a little bit, so I will read it to you. Could you explain how difficult it must have been to be a new mayor with a totally new council and have some elected representatives quit shortly thereafter, costing the taxpayers a lot of money for a new election? Also, explain how difficult it was to deal with the community forest and the staffing problems within the village when you took over. I apologize, I only have 2 minutes for that one.
I don't know if I can answer that one in 2 minutes. It was a very, very difficult situation to go through, and we had 3 members resign. I think it would have been better had we not had former council show up at every meeting, start questioning staff, sending us letter after letter after letter, posting on that god-awful webpage. And what it did was it created a rift between council and staff. Staff is continuous, so it doesn't matter who's on council, staff should continue. And because of that, it really made a situation not only difficult for myself, but I believe also difficult for Councillor Bezanson, Councillor Tracy, and Councillor Reichart. Sorry, what was the second part of that?
Oh, I'm sorry, I set it down here just a second. We might have to extend time just a bit because of this. Also explain how difficult it was to deal with community forest and the staffing problems within the village when you took over.
Like I said, with staff, I believe if there had been a separation, it would have been much easier for council to function. When it came to the community forest, that was a whole different ballgame. We had just gone through the largest, one of the worst audits in the forest history. Everything had expired. And when we hired BA Blackwell, we did financial ones, a bunch of different types of investigations, and tried to bring the community forest back on track. The good part about it is we were able to get contracts out so that they were fair. Everybody had the opportunity. Every single member of council decided whether or not they felt that councillors should be sitting on the board, and I will tell you that Councillor Bezanson and Councillor Reichart said it best, that you didn't have to be a member of council sitting on that board, that the board was better shaped with people with finance, with accounting, with forestry, and with local knowledge. That was why the resolution was passed with only 1 member of council. With that 1 member on council, we also meet the arm's length requirement, which reduces liability to the shareholder, both for environmental and for financial.
You. Can you pass the mic to Rick Thompson, please? Rick, this is a question for you alone. As you were a councillor when the new sewage property was put in by the Fraser Bridge, what are your comments on that project now? And do you think that it was a proper usage of taxpayer dollars? And is it being used to the potential at this time?
Thank you for the question. The old lagoon, which was located in the same area as the new lagoon, same property, was at capacity and was full of sludge. And we had to, as a council, come up with a plan to alleviate the problem and increase the capacity of our sewage system. We worked with environmental groups, etc., and engineers, and came up with an award-winning project for an environmentally friendly multi-stage sewage lagoon project, which takes our sewage from the first cell through the other cells through the woodlot and releases fresh water into the Fraser River. Instead of us sending raw sewage down to Surrey and Chilliwack, we're now sending fresh water in that direction. Yes, it was an expensive project that was funded mostly by grants from the federal government and the provincial governments, and it was a necessary project and is a good project. I stand behind that project as we move forward. It is serving the purpose of the residents of McBride for now and into the future. It's an award-winning project, and I'm proud of it. Thank you.
Great. Can you pass the mic back to Loran, please? This is a question forwarded by the audience. It's for 2 candidates for mayor, Loran and Rick. I will read it. Loran will answer first and then Rick. Outside of, oh, I'm so sorry. Maybe, what's the young man's name who was helping with the mics, Linda? Because this one, I'm not sure if it's number 2 or 3 or which one it is, but this one's really hot. I'm not that hot, but the mic's hot. Thanks. Okay, here's the question. Outside of being at a meeting or a political event, Over the last 4 years, how have you promoted McBride?
That's actually been a fun part. You get the opportunity to travel, to go to different meetings, to meet with mayors, to meet with people. Also, like the winter games that were on in Prince George. And every single time you go out, you are an ambassador for your community, good or bad. And I can remember at the winter games, I was with Sheila Anderson, and we were stuck in the back by the food court. So as you can imagine, not many people came to our booth because they were all busy eating. So I decided, well, I sit here and wait for everybody, and I took all of our little giveaways, and I just went right out into the crowd and started telling everybody, you got to come to the Robson Valley. This is going to be the place to be. And it was a wonderful opportunity. The Library Museum project, presenting it and getting the feedback that I got from the 10 different communities was amazing. You know, people don't mind if things are controversial, but they're looking for results and how that turned out. And it was one of the nicest things to have people come up and say, your museum's amazing. When Harold and I were meeting with the Minister of Agriculture, one of the first things she did was, Harold didn't get a chance to get his question out, and she went, you got it. And she says, I've been talking to the Ross. And I'm thinking differently now because I've been talking to the Ross, and she said that she promotes McBride all the time. And you know, it can be the littlest of things, helping a person and then they find out you're from McBride. Every single time you walk out the door, it's an opportunity to be an ambassador for McBride and for the Robson Valley.
Thank you. Pass it to Rick.
Thank you for that question. I think it's important to note that everywhere I go and everyone I meet, I try to promote McBride and the Robson Valley. I talk about